Welcome to tonight's program, Constructing Confident Readers, Tools for Assisting Your Reluctant Reader. We are so happy that so many of you joined us. Tonight we have Dr. Shelly Huggins, Director of the Towson University Literacy Center. She has been an educator for 28 years, has a BS in Elementary Ed from Salisbury University, an MA in Reading from Towson, a doctorate in urban educational leadership from Morgan University. She was a teacher and reading specialist for BCPS. She taught elementary ed and graduate reading at Towson before becoming the director of the reading clinic at Towson. She has such an amazing background in reading and has so much information to share. Now let's welcome Dr. Huggins.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for sharing my background. I feel like that is a good educational background for my experiences. I think more important to my experiences would be that I'm a mother. And I'm a mother of two beautiful children. One of them is a very conventional learner. The other has dyslexia, dysgraphia, and ADD. So not only have I been there in the educational field, but as a parent, I have been responsible for supporting both kinds of children as they learn, which has really put an edge on everything that I do as an educator and that I do at clinic. So the reading clinic, I just want to share some resources with you, give you some perspective as well. So the reading clinic has been around for over 50 years, and it's a resource for you open to the public in our community to offer one-on-one tutoring. Usually it's on campus at Towson University. And our applications are open to the public, as I said, on August 1st and December 1st of every year for those prospective semesters. We do usually have a waiting list, so they fill up really quickly. So if you want to put on your calendar, August 1st, December 1st, to get on the website and make those connections to our application. I'd like to share a little bit with you about the reading clinic. I'm going to share a screen with you. So this is our website. The applications mentions we take everybody from birth to death as long as they have potty training on either end. We take them December 1st and August 1st, as I mentioned. I just want to give you a little overview of what we offer at the clinic as one of your community resources.
The Towson Reading Clinic has been around for the last 50 years. We are an outreach. Our goal is to change lives through literacy.
Look at that closely.
And when our clinicians are presented with a child who's struggling in literacy, we identify accurately what that student needs, and then we pull all the resources that we have to bear into meeting those needs. We have adult clients who can't navigate their world because they are not able to interpret text in the ways that other people do. We also have many stories of clients who come through clinic as children and then discover an academic freedom and success that they've never had before. In that case, very specific, like Michaela.
When I was a kid, reading, it didn't really come easy to me. I just felt like every time I read, it was for nothing because I couldn't make that mental picture in my head. The structure was one-on-one. My teacher got everything that I liked and put it into the curriculum that I needed in order to improve. I am going to be a senior at Towson. I'm doing elementary education. That emotional bond that's made between teacher and student, that's what students are going to take with them forever.
Our clinicians are teachers who wouldn't be reading specialists, in which they take a client and they design a 10 to 11 week instructional program. We assess the kids, give them exactly what they need, and assess it at the end and make sure that we gave them what they needed.
Our tutor, she specialized in what Grace is struggling with. Like, she's been able to pinpoint the issue. And the times I observed them, there was the observation window and you're watching her with the tutor and she didn't know I was watching her. And she was reading and she was enjoying it.
We have the whole family literacy piece so that the families come together, we address what the families need, and they leave empowered to support their entire family.
They're helping us learn to teach our children. I feel like I'm getting a huge benefit by being in the program. It's like I'm going to graduate school for education for the 1 hour I'm here, but I get to do it for free as part of this program.
Okay. So while clients are getting the one-on-one tutoring in our tutoring rooms, we have a parent workshop that happens for all of the stakeholders for each of the clients. So that was one of the things that makes our program special. We would love to have you apply or inquire about having services through our website. You would just click on the child or the parent application for those. One of the really exciting things about our program that we hear parents talk about is they have a better understanding of what their child is going through as a reluctant reader or as a person who learns differently in either of those cases. And one of the resources that we share with them for being able to better understand what is going on with their reader is a website called Understood. I'm going to share that with you. So this website, understood.org, is has a plethora of information in short, pithy kind of articles. It tells you at the beginning all the time of what you can get out of that article or that webinar or that podcast that they have. They almost always have a one-page fact sheet that helps you to just get a glimpse of what you need. Nobody has a lot of time to be diving into a lot of text. They also have something really original, which of course is not up right now. It's down. It's called Through Your Child's Eyes. And if you have never had an opportunity to do a simulation for the type of learning differences that your child has, or to kind of understand what it's like when they struggle with reading or they're reluctant with reading, they promised that this site would be up next week. But what you would do is click into the simulations and learning differences, and it will help simulate what it's like for a child to try and learn with ADHD, or what it's like for a child to learn with dyslexia and dysgraphia. And then they have students sharing their own experiences and what it's like from them. So parents have found this resource really helpful. And you can even have them send you email updates of what the articles are each month, so that you never miss anything and you know what is coming down the pike that you might be interested in. So all of the ways that we try to make connections with reluctant readers as tutors and as educators, we are kind of behind knowledge of students. So you as a parent know the most about your child, and you know what's going to get them hooked and get them interested. So one of the things that we try and do is we try and connect kids with hook books. So these could be series of books or topics from books that really hook kids. So if you know your child is really into fishing, we're going to find a line of fishing books on their reading level to help them get there. So if your child is not yet reading, really struggling or reluctant to get started, kind of leveled books that make the decoding of the words, the figuring out what the words say a little easier while they enjoy the topic of the book or are entertained by the book is a huge win. One of the books that was the most successful for me, for my son, the first book that he ever laughed and enjoyed was called a Mo Willem books called Elephant and Piggy. And he just loves to laugh. He's full of life, loves to laugh and have a good time. So that was really a saving grace for us. If you are not familiar with his books, they are two very lovable characters who are best friends and kind of interact together. I'm going to share a little bit of one of the stories.
Gerald! Let's dance. I can teach you. I'm teaching all my friends.
I would love to learn how to dance. But elephants cannot dance.
You are kidding me.
No.
So you notice that the characters are engaging, entertaining kind of topic. There's already a conflict happening. But what my son enjoyed the most was first of all, it gets very funny, but you can see from the expressions on the face, which helps the reader to decode what the words might be based on the facial expressions of
No,
characters.
look it up. Page 11.
Gerald.
So you're looking for materials and resources that your child will be interested in. The first time that they are engaged in a book, you're going to know it. You're going to see the expression change. They're going to ask questions. They're going to try and sound out words that they've never tried to sound out before. So level books that are of high interest but low ability is, so if you're going to Barnes & Noble, you're going to talk to your local librarian. You can say, I have a third grader, I'm looking for books that are of high interest and lower ability, maybe a leveled book. If you look at free online services from your public library, one of them where I live is called Hoopla. It's a free service through my library that supplies me with audiobooks, ebooks, and videos for children's books. You can click into the database in Hoopla, and it will give you choices for just children's books versus adolescent books. And they also have user ratings, so you can see what other students were actually interested in reading themselves. We also have access to another crowd pleaser, which is, sorry, let me pull it up for you here. Graphic novels are a big hit. So if you think about, maybe you had an experience with comic books when you were younger. These are not your grandfather's comic books. Again, the enticing thing about these for reluctant readers is that it is colorful and engaging. There's not a lot of print, and you can figure out, oftentimes you can figure out what the print is about based on the pictures that are there. So again, this is big and bold and inviting, but not a lot of print going on. Another series that I think is a gotcha or kind of a book that grabs kids is called Branches. So if you go to the Scholastic website, they have a whole series of books that are high interest, low ability. It's called Branches. And they have a whole different levels and different series to choose from. If you have a girl who's a reluctant reader, this Diary of a Pug is about a little girl and her pug dog and the adventures that they go on. They wear matching clothes. Haggis and Tank is one of my favorites. They go on pirate adventures and all kinds of imaginative adventures together. One of them is very outgoing. One is really shy. We have the superhero and the Kung Pao Chicken one. Layla and the Bots. Layla is a scientist and likes to create things. So you can see that there's kind of a character for everything. One of their most popular ones is this Owl Diaries series, and the unicorn one, of course. One of the ones that students that I work with, boys that I really work with a lot, the Binder of Doom, introduce a different monster each time, and they keep a binder about it, and the Dragon Masters. So these are books that kids who are in elementary school and other kids are reading chapter books when they are reluctant readers or are struggling readers, they're not really able to read those same chapter books, but these are chapter books that are interesting. The theme and the plot is similar to the books that everybody else is reading, and they can read them on their own. So again, that's Branches, and that's from Scholastic. The American Reading Company is another resource. They have hook books packaged in grade level packages. So you could go and say, I have a third grader. Can you share with me some books that are on the third grade level that might really interest my third grader? Maybe they're reading on grade level, or they're just reluctant to start to read. You may be able to find one there. Another magical formula is the trifecta. So if you can find an audiobook, a book, and a movie all surrounding that book. So you could say, hey, let's read the first Harry Potter. let's listen to the next Harry Potter on audiobook, and then we'll watch the movie. So anytime that you can get that trifecta together, it's really motivating for kids. You could watch the movie first and then say, let's read the book and see what the differences were, or see which one you prefer. Anything that they do together with you, of course, is a benefit and exciting. And just a note about audiobooks. So my son was reading about 2 grade levels below his grade level. However, his listening capacity, or the amount of information that he could take in, was 3 to 4 grade levels above his grade level. So he was actually gifted and had a learning disability. So allowing him into the world of audiobooks allowed him to continue to grow and expand his vocabulary, feel like he was accomplishing grade level kinds of things, and also have access to the same books that other people in his grade were reading without having to actually read it. So although I was building up his curriculum 2 grade levels below with the text that we were using, he was listening to audiobooks above his grade level, and kind of meeting in the middle really helped to build his confidence and to make that world more appealing to him. He still listens all the time to audiobooks. He's constantly listening to audiobooks as a teenager. Another way that we can really pull in our reluctant readers is through active reading. In the olden days, we called this reading perform a task, but really anything that you can do with them that they enjoy doing. If they like to cook, get a recipe out, get on Google, on the internet, and find a recipe that they're interested in and read it with them, or have them read it as you go along. Help them assemble something, a kite, a bike, a model, anything that they're interested in doing. Instead of buying them the kite, let's buy the kite kit and we'll read how to do it together. One of the things that I did with my son when he was in middle school is I would help him find cheat sheets online for the video game he was playing. And they have very extensive directions and vocabulary about what to do to end a video game well, or to find like a secret passage in a video game that he didn't know about. So he was very motivated to read what he could and to listen to me read about what those might be. There are a lot of origin stories for characters. So if they're really into Star Wars, or they're really into the Marvel series, you can get back information about those origins of those superheroes or whatever they're reading about online, and then share that with them. I have a couple of our clients at clinic who really like magic tricks, or impressed by magic tricks. So their tutor will do a magic trick and then ask the child to read up with it and see if they can figure out how they did it, and come back the next week and do it for them or with them. There are also joke books that you could do with your child to try and bring them in. In addition to active reading, there are lots of ways, especially since we're all home right now, to play games with students with maybe even learning the alphabet. You could have index cards that you could make at home and have the alphabet, 1 letter on each of those cards, have them stand in the corner of the room, throw a beanbag at one of the cards, and they have to either say the letter's name or what sound it makes, or maybe a word that starts with that letter. As they progress, then you can put some sight words, some words that you want them to know how to recognize. You could put those on the index cards, and they could throw a beanbag to the sight words. Let's say the sight word is SEE. They throw the beanbag, they hit SEE, and then they have to say see. That word means see. We also have done, if you're feeling a little more daring and you want to get out of the house or get into the garage at least, you could put the index cards on the wall and have the kids hit a soccer ball towards them or throw a ball at them. They could practice with their lacrosse stick towards hitting those particular words. And then as they become a little more sophisticated, there are all kinds of online connections that you can make for vocabulary matching or vocabulary jeopardy. There's that old adage where you can kind of put the vocabulary all over the walls at home when kids are learning a new language. They might have the words in Spanish on refrigerator, so that they learn the Spanish word for refrigerator. That you can certainly have vocabulary words throughout the house and just kind of go over them as you go, make it a little game, see how well they can do with that. Another fun thing to do, and I'm always thinking about boys because sometimes boys are our most reluctant readers. There is a series called Wicked History. So it goes through, it's kind of like a graphic novel, and they go through, I think there's 12 books in the series. They go through kind of notorious characters in the past history. So instead of having to read dryly about Rasputin, this really talks a lot about his background, what kind of evil things that he did and what he was known for, how he died. It's kind of graphic, but the boys really love it. And again, this would be another thing that would be considered to be a hook book. So if they are interested in reading one of these, they may move on and be interested in others. So those are kind of my best thoughts about hooking in reluctant readers and some of our best resources. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have, if you have any.
Hi, if you have any questions for Dr. Huggins, be sure to go ahead and type them out and I will read them to her. In the meantime, I wanted to share that Baltimore County Public Libraries, we have access to free books and audiobooks and stuff through our Overdrive/Libby and Cloud Library. They're two different sources, and we put little how-to videos into our YouTube and Facebook. So there's a lot of good information there. So we've got some resources to share from the Maryland Dyslexia and Instruction Intervention. So we're going to have some things in the chat. So Dr. Huggins, it was interesting that you had that young lady who described not being able to visualize the things that she was reading. As I mentioned to you earlier, I first came across your program because I have a son that he read all of my side of the mountain in class with everybody else, but when they asked questions, he couldn't answer them because he literally could not visualize it. And what we did was exactly what you recommended, is we had a movie, book, and audiobook that we used combined to help him visualize stuff. And that was a big stepping stone. And I got to participate in this by taking my son to the reading clinic, and it made a huge difference in his life, which is why I was so excited that you agreed to share this wonderful, incredible program with our community. Let's see, the University of Maryland is aligned to the science of reading. Why is the level literacy still being used with struggling readers? So that, I think, was the question.
Maybe I can read it. I'll understand it better if I read it.
And that was posted 7/25.
Oh, I don't see that one.
Okay, so what he wrote was, the University of Maryland is aligned to the science of reading. Why is leveled literacy still being used with struggling readers? I'm not sure that we understood that question. I'm sorry.
Maybe they can explain it a little better.
A question from Megan. Would you have any recommendations for girls who like nonfiction only, age 7?
Oh, I am one of those females that's kind of an outlier, that I love nonfiction more than fiction. There are a number of podcasts and blogs that she might be interested in, depending on I would see what her topic of interest is. If it's just informational text, or if it's informational text about nature, it's informational text about I don't know, animals. There are blogs online that are directed towards teens that are monitored and are safe for students to be on. There are several online newspaper
oh, I'm sorry, she's age 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Newsella is something that you can change the reading grade level on that text. You can get an article. Let's say she's really into science. You can get an article about the space shuttle that was just published, and they'll publish it in 5 different grade levels. So you could read to her one and then have her read one of the ones that on a lower grade level. So you can kind of manipulate that. And that's New Zella. There's also a tween that has interesting articles that are nonfiction. So she can start to do that.
Okay, so Theo asks, how do you distinguish a reluctant reader from a dyslexic reader? And are the interventions different? If so, how?
So dyslexia means that they have a learning difference and it's a processing difference. So that type of learning difference shows up in other areas, not just reading. So you could have a professional let you know what the difference might be for your particular child. So bringing them to a professional, to the reading clinic or somewhere else to have that evaluated would be a good idea. Reluctant readers often aren't interested in reading as much as they aren't able to process or decode. That's something a professional could help you delineate.
So it sounds like while most children who have a reading challenge, possibly because of something like dyslexia, can be a reluctant reader, not all reluctant readers have a learning difference.
Yeah. Yes. Everybody doesn't like to read, even if they can read well. I guess that is the way I should put it. So it could be that the child just doesn't enjoy sedentary kinds of activities, but a professional could let you know whether they're dealing with dyslexia or not.
Okay. Well, Theo asks, how does the reading clinic evaluate kids to determine if children are dyslexic?
So we don't have a dyslexia litmus test. What we have is a way to determine if students have learning differences in reading or any kind of literacy. So what we do at Reading Clinic at Towson is we do an individual reading inventory, and those results based on the grade level that they're in a series and a battery of other assessments give us an idea of what kind of learning differences the child might have or the client might have, might not be a child.
Okay, Miss Fields asks, yes, retention is difficult in group, one-on-one is better. She is 12 and seems present and engaged, but sometimes cannot recall what she reads while reading out loud and silent reading.
So we have about half of our clients that come to us with a difficulty with decoding what the word says, actually reading the words out loud or making sense of the words versus being able to recall information or comprehend what those words together are supposed to mean. So there are different ways to instructionally remediate either of those concerns that we could help mediate in clinic, or you could have a professional also help you to do that. Any of the things that we talked about this evening would be helpful in either of those situations, though.
And Laura says, to piggyback on Theo's first question, how useful is leveled reading either through Lexile or Fountas and Pinnell? Why are these used in the schools? Are they useful with struggling readers?
Okay. So when we used a leveled program, it helps the students access the text at a level that they can be successful. That's what level books are really about. As students become more able to decode the text and understand what the text, actually reading the text, understanding what it is, then the level moves up. As I mentioned, like with my son, when I talked about how I had level readers that I used for his instruction, but I had audiobooks that helped him with the comprehension piece too. So we want to address both ends of that. We wouldn't want to overwhelm or overload kids with just leveled readers that are below their reading level. We also want to expose them to novels and literature and nonfiction that is rich. Oftentimes level reading programs don't provide a level of sophistication or richness in their text, which is often the concern.
If you happen, and this is as a librarian, if you are going into and you're looking at the beginning readers section in the library, you may see things that are marked with 1, 2, or 3. And you have these things by different publishers. And sometimes if you just take a moment and pull the book and you open it up, you as a parent may very quickly determine that even though it says it's a level 1, to you and to your child, that is not a level 1. And then another book by another series, they're level 2 or 3, it would be okay. So the best test to do is just open it up and flip through and get a sense, is my child going to be overwhelmed by this? Or is it going to be something where they look at it and go, okay, I can probably cope. So that is probably the very best determination, and not just looking at the spines. They are often not, spot on. Do we have any other questions?
We do have one question in the Q&A from Tammy. What if the child can't read? Many third graders can't read.
So there are lots of entry points to get them to start to begin to figure out what letters and words are. Starting with the alphabet first, and the alphabet connection to sounds, and then sight words, and building from there. So if a child is unable to read by third grade, that's always troubling. Could be developmental, basically, up until that point. So seeking out professional assistance at your child's school or at the clinic is a good idea, just to help come alongside you and the teacher to help give some remediation to help them along the way. But the process of setting up the reading, like pre-reading and then emergent reading, is the same. So we can start and insert that child in that process and then keep building from where they are, whether they're 5 or 6 or 8.
Okay, so Theo says, how is phonemic awareness addressed? Is it addressed? How do level texts help reinforce lessons in mnemonic awareness? Do you use decodable books?
So phonemic awareness is addressed if it's identified. I'm assuming that you're asking about clinic. If a clinician assesses a student and identifies phonemic awareness, which is the sounds that letters make in meaningful parts, if that's identified as a weakness, then we go through a series of phonemic awareness activities after the assessment identifies which sounds they're not familiar with. So phonemic awareness would be done mostly on a parts level, not a whole level. So we probably wouldn't be choosing level books or any kind of literature books to target phonemic awareness. Or we would do other activities to try and get them to identify those sounds. Oftentimes we try and have the sound identified with a different modality. So it's not just seeing and hearing the word. It might be that I use a movement with their body to help them anchor that sound.
Okay, now I'm not sure if this was posted after we read the question or if this is a second post, but Tammy, who asked the other question, said, I posted initially on the Q&A, but we moved to chat. My question I posted was, we are talking about books, but what if a third grader can't actually access the text? I think you answered that. Do you think?
Yeah, that we would start small in small parts and then build up to the text. And then I would always be exposing them to audiobooks, as I said, so they're still getting the language of books while they're working on trying to decode the parts of books that they don't understand. And again, I would seek out by third grade if they're still not reading. I'm not sure what the definition of that is, but having that individual assessment done would really give you a lot of information by a professional.
Okay, and Noel asks, are there any tips for reading comprehension?
Oh goodness, yeah. So when we talk to kids about comprehension, we usually start the conversation by saying, when you are listening to, when you want to experience your favorite song, do you want to listen to it on the radio or do you want to see the YouTube video that the artist has posted? And the students would say, I want to get the full experience. So I'll say when you're reading, you're listening to the radio, but when I'm reading, I get the full experience. So we talk about having the words kind of penetrate our mind so that we visualize what's happening when we're reading. There are a number of ways that we physically intervene into the reading process for them visually, so that they can stop at intervals and talk about what they're reading until they're building a full picture of comprehension as they're reading. Looking at attacking vocabulary, the way that they read, whether it's silently or out loud, and just helping them to visualize more of the movie or the story that's going on in their head as they're reading.
Now, I've noticed that, and I think everybody's experienced that moment where they've read a paragraph and they don't remember any of it. And they go back and they have to reread it. And sometimes kids can be very distractible. So it can make it very hard to focus on what they're reading and remember what they're reading. And there can be some short-term memory things going on sometimes where by the time they get to the bottom, they don't remember what the top said. So it sounds like those kinds of interventions where you stop and you talk about what you just read before you move on to the next thing would be really helpful for a child who's slowly piece by piece building that picture in their mind.
So we start out by modeling for them what a good reader kind of experiences while they're reading. So we would do a think aloud where I would read to them and we'd experience the book together, but I would share with them what I'm thinking about and what I'm visualizing, what I'm surprised about, what I have questions about as I'm reading, model that for them. And then we have some ways that we have them read a text, and we'll have slash marks starting out maybe every 3 or 4 words, and then maybe every sentence, and then maybe every other sentence. So that slash mark makes them, a tally mark makes them trigger in their mind, oh, what am I reading? What am I reading? What am I going to tell Dr. Huggins about what I'm reading? And then we space those further and further out when they become more proficient about thinking about what they're reading on their own.
So Theo asks, what scope and sequence is used in the tutoring at the center, and can you share what that looks like?
Absolutely. So we do not have a specialized program that is Towson University's program. What we do is we train our clinicians to assess what each child needs based on a battery of assessments, including an informal reading inventory in which the student reads out loud, and we track their miscues and mistakes as they're reading. And we do a comprehension test, a phonics test, a phonemic awareness test. Based on the information for each individual client, we custom make a 10 to 11 week program for that client. So our grad students do the assessments under our direction and plan the instruction and deliver the instruction under our direction in our facilities, so that we don't have a program that we plug kids into. We create programs to meet the students' needs. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like if you have 10 kids that walk in, you have 10 completely different individual programs. No two are completely alike.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's unique about our program, is that we're not touting a Towson University reading sequence. We are exploring what each individual client needs, and that's how we're training our students to look at each student as an individual and meet their needs based on what the assessments and the data tell them.
So there's no one size fits all approach. So in your experience, we have a lot of people that I think the average reading age for many adults is about the 8th grade. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of the challenge is that if you don't read, you don't have exposure to the kind of language that happens only in books. So if you have someone who has reading challenges and is getting frustrated with reading, then bringing in those audiobooks sounds like a good way to help ensure that they're getting that language exposure, that as the mechanism of learning to read from a book is still working and processing through, they're still getting that language exposure that they need to develop too, so the two can work together. Is that sort of part of what your overall goal is?
Yeah, again, we want to bring them up in their decoding ability and their comprehension ability, but also we want to be sure that we're being cognizant of where their intellectual ability is and their listening capacity. They're sitting in a grade level classroom every day getting information. Well, they used to be getting information on grade level every day. So we need to be sure that their listening capacity, their ability to listen and comprehend is at least at grade level. But very often students who are reluctant learners or reluctant readers or struggling learners are above grade level in their listening capacity, their ability to understand. So we want to be sure that we're complementing them intellectually as we're building up from the bottom of what their reading capabilities are.
So Laura asks, would it be possible to get a list of the assessment you use to make these determinations?
Sure. You can email the reading clinic if you want me to send you a more detailed list of assessments you could buy. We use the Qualitative Reading Inventory 6 right now as our main source of information.
She says, yes, that would be great. I think we may have a slide that's got your contact information on it.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
Noelle, is that the case that we have a slide with her contact information on it? Or the contact?
Yes. It's reading clinic at towson.edu.
Yes. Okay. Here we have it. So that's your contact information. And that way, if there's any part of this or any questions you have, or anything that occurs to you later, you've got some contact information here.
Yes, please. And we did just close applications for the spring. We have a waiting list of about 25 families right now. So your next opportunity to sign up for clinic would be that August 1st deadline.
However, a lot of the suggestions that Dr. Huggins has shared with you are things that while you're trying to help your child from home, and I know it's a very difficult time with the kids home all the time, and you really needed that in-school support, but you don't have access to it now. It can be very frustrating for parents who are trying to do the best by their kid to figure out what they can do, what more can they do, what new resources and new avenues can they explore to try and re-engage with their child, to try and make it fun, to try and get them excited about it again. Because kids get pretty good at pushing away. So hopefully tonight will give you some tools to re-engage your struggling reader and keep making that progress. And I think one of the most important things that helps to remember is not to compare the child against other children, is to compare the child against themselves, and it sounds like the reading clinic does that too, is they're measuring the child's growth. This is where they started and this is where they are, not, oh, well, this is where the peers are. And it sounds like you guys build a lot of self-confidence by doing that sort of approach. How important would you say some of that self-confidence building steps are for the readers?
Well, I think one of the really exciting things about working with a child one-on-one is that it's rare for a child to get that one-on-one attention for an hour straight with an adult anyway. So, especially now with online schooling, if there's another sibling in the house. So even that connection with another adult that cares this much about me to spend this amount of time planning for me and finding good things for me to read and working with me helps to build their confidence initially, just with the social interaction with another adult that cares that much about me to spend that amount of time with me and help me learn. And then the confidence piece just is a snowball effect. One of the exciting things about using the online resources that you have at the library. So you all do Overlook, is that right? Is that what it's called, Overdrive?
We have something, it's Overdrive, but we recommend that if you're using a mobile device like an iPad or a phone, that you download Libby. It has access to the same stuff as Overdrive. It's just a little bit better for those kinds of devices. And then the other one is Cloud Library. And the librarians are happy to help and walk people through how to download and use these apps. And they have both downloadable books and downloadable audiobooks. And every chance I personally got to play an audiobook when I had my kids as a captive audience, like in the car for long trips, camping. And I know that a lot of these things are sort of a little bit out of the way, but like putting a blanket over the dining room table and camping under the dining room table while listening to a book together. Like this is seriously snuggly quality time, and that generates and fosters those positive experiences and associations. So Tammy comments that she says, just a comment, reluctant readers are reluctant for a reason. It's imperative that parents know exactly what the issues are relative to their individual deficits. And that is very, very true. It's very hard to help a child when you have no idea. Are you looking at dyslexia? Are you looking at ADHD? Are you looking at, they just rather be playing a video game, or they're just, so.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well. And then like I said, my husband and I are both educators, and my son is 5 years old and can't read. He's having trouble remembering his address and his phone number. I mean, the things just kind of make themselves known over time. And even as educators, we were kind of taken off guard by what we were seeing in him. I just wanted to add about the audiobooks and the access online. If I tried to drag my reluctant reader into the library and said, hey, let's go through this whole shelf of books and just check out a different book and see which ones you like and sit down and read with me, he would have been gone in 2 seconds. But pulling out the tablet and kind of being able to flip through digitally and say, oh, let's watch 2 minutes about this book and 2 minutes about the next book was much easier, a pill to swallow. And then once I targeted what he was interested in, then I can go kind of and get the authentic text to share with him and have those experiences. But the digital access is just really life-changing for interest levels.
So Laura says, hi, I saw you had, so someone had a hand up, but Laura said, what training do tutors receive before they work with students? Oh, such a good question.
Oh, that's a good question. So all of our tutors are in their capstone semester for Towson University's graduate reading program. So they have been through 2 to 3 years of reading literacy courses. 98% of them are already certified teachers who are getting their master's to be reading specialists. So there is a level 1 and a level 2 seminar, kind of like student teaching, that they go through to receive their degree as a reading specialist. And those are the people that are tutoring. And like I said, they are under the direction of the READ faculty, and their programs are also, their instructional programs are approved and then tracked and maintained and evaluated as they go.
So Theo asks, is anybody trained in Orton Gillingham?
We may have some teachers who are trained in Orton Gillingham through their districts, but again, Towson doesn't subscribe to any particular reading program. We look at what each individual child needs. A lot of the benefits of the Orton Gillingham program through different modality kinds of things where they're making connections to movements and sounds are things that we use in our program as well. Yeah. Not in our program, we use for programming as well.
So I'm sure that as the parents are at home, and of course they need to engage their reluctant reader, and right now it may be an extraordinarily difficult time to try and go to the school and ask for an IEP meeting and testing and stuff. And there is a wait list for the reading clinic. So, the parent is probably thinking, what am I going to do with this kid who hates to read and is fighting me tooth and nail? And I don't want to make this a battleground what are some of the things that you've found help generate, those warm feelings, those fuzzy feelings, those experiences that make it not such an ugly, awful, for the child, so that when they think of reading, they think of some positive experiences. What are some of the things you found from the parents that you've worked with that say, oh, this has worked and that's worked?
So just finding the hook, like we talked a little bit about earlier, knowing what your child's interests are, and tracking them into some kind of literary experience, and then pulling the text in after that. So finding something that they're already interested in, already love doing. Some of the things that, as my son got older, that I was able to pull him into, he was interested in sports medicine. That's something that he does in high school as a concentration. He wanted to learn about different stretches and different ways to do weightlifting. So we would pull up those kinds of texts, and I'd say, hey, I found this. You want to try this new exercise? Or can you show me, I'm interested in this exercise. Can you read this and show me how to do it, or what the benefits are for this? So it's anything that they are already hooked on that you can hook literacy to.
So find those special interests and go for them.
Mm-hmm.
So Laura says, regarding your son, there's a list of tutors on the International Dyslexia Association website. The good news is structured literacy, which is recommended by MSDE for dyslexia, is tailored to each student's need and is language-based and not a program. So we do have the International Dyslexia Association also located right in Towson. So they are another wonderful resource to be aware of.
Absolutely.
We actually have a number of really fantastic, we're very fortunate to live in the area we do with some of the resources we have. And it says, is Towson involved in any partnerships with the dyslexia schools like Genesee and the IDA?
We are involved with several partnerships in Baltimore City Public Schools to help support learners there. We are not associated with either one of those schools, though.
So we look like we're getting down to the last 5 minutes, and I think I'm going to turn this right on over. Let me give you a quick rundown of a couple resources we have. We have hotspots available for people who need them. We have free remote printing, up to 20 free pages a day. People can come in and use the computers for an hour-long appointments. But the other thing that's really cool to ties into with all of this is we started doing something called Be Surprised bundles. So you fill out one of the forms on our website, the BCPL website, listing what your child is interested in, what their reading level is, and we will go and pick out about 5 books, put them together for you. You check them out, and there you have it. And they like them or they hate them, but at least it's some different books. And in the time where you can't really browse inside the branch, and you may not always want to wait for holds, this is a quick way, to try and get some books together and on the shelf for your kids, and to experiment with different books. And Beth says we love our bundles. And we're getting a lot of positive for the Be Surprised bundles. I would tell you what, when we first started this, our inbox just exploded. It was like, whoa, people are liking this one. So this is a fantastic way to experiment with as you go through and look at stuff with your child and they seem interested. Maybe it's not on the shelf to put on, and you're like, well, these are the kinds of things they should and interested in. So the more information you give, the more tailored we can make it. But again, it's okay if they hate it. You can take it back and we'll give you another one. So I'm going to hand this right on over to Noelle for her, concluding remarks. Thank you so much, Dr. Huggins. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm putting in the chat right now a link to the Baltimore County website with a list of some books that are high interest for reluctant readers. Now that they're not going to hit every child, but they're just a starting point. So put that in the chat right now. You will also be receiving an email after this program with the same link. Now I wanted to point out some programs that we have coming up. Pause to Read is the first Tuesday of the month, and that is an excellent program for children or even teens that would like to read to a dog. And so right now it's over Zoom, but it's still a wonderful chance to have maybe those reluctant readers be able to read to a dog. Look for that on our website. We also have the Save Sight Word Sam, which is a really fun game that that helps kids learn sight words, and that's on Wednesdays at 10:30. You would have to register for all of these programs. And then our next reading panel is Creating Lifelong Readers Out of Reluctant Readers, Igniting a Passion. And it's going to be presented by people from Baltimore County Public Schools, Dr. Pamela Wolf, Miss Allison Brooke, and they will be here on February 10th at 7 p.m. If you're interested in that, you would also need to sign up on our website, just like you did for this evening's program. And again, thank you all for coming. And thank you,
so
Dr.
much.
Huggins, very much for all of your wonderful information that you gave to us and to all of the attendees this evening. Thank you all for coming tonight.